Movies and TV shows captivate us with thrilling crimes, shocking twists, and masterminds who always seem one step ahead. But what happens when fiction bleeds into reality? When inspired viewers take things too far, turning scripted crimes into horrifying real-life events. Today, we dive into chilling cases where life imitated art with deadly consequences. Number 1 on our list, inspired by the TV show Dexter, was Mark Twitchel. Mark had always dreamed of making it big in the film industry. Born in Edmonton, Alberta, on July 4, 1979, he pursued his passion by enrolling in the radio and television arts program at the Northern Alberta Institute of Technology, graduating in 2000. His ambitions led him to direct and script several projects, including a Star Wars fan film and a short horror movie titled House of Cards. However, Twitchel's passion for storytelling would soon take a dark and disturbing turn. In October 2008, Twitchel used the dating site Plenty of Fish to lure unsuspecting victims to a garage he had rented in Edmonton. Pretending to be a woman, he arranged a meeting with John Brian Altinger, a 38-year-old former oilfield equipment manufacturer. On October 10th, Altinger informed his friends that he was meeting a new romantic interest and provided them with the address. He never returned. When Altinger arrived at the garage, he was brutally bludgeoned and stabbed to death by Twitchel. Attempting to dispose of the body, Twitchel first tried to burn it. When this failed, he dismembered Altinger's remains, placed them in garbage bags, and disposed of them in a storm sewer. To cover his tracks, he broke into Altinger's home and sent emails to his friends and employer, claiming he had left for a spontaneous vacation in Costa Rica. However, his story began to unravel when concerned friends found Altinger's passport and belongings still in his apartment. As the investigation progressed, Twitchel told police an elaborate lie, that he had coincidentally met Altinger, who wanted to sell his car before leaving for Costa Rica. Twitchel claimed he purchased the vehicle for just $40 Canadian. The police, unconvinced by his story, discovered Altinger's blood in Twitchel's car and recovered a document from his laptop titled SK Confessions, short for Serial Killer Confessions. The document detailed the planning, failed first attempt, and eventual murder of a man using fake online dating profiles as bait. During his trial in 2011, Twitchel admitted to killing Altinger, but insisted it was self-defense, describing SK Confessions as a fictionalized account of real events meant to enhance his storytelling skills. His fascination with the television show Dexter, which follows a vigilante serial killer, became a focal point of media coverage, earning him the moniker the Dexter Killer. Another chilling discovery on his laptop, titled A Profile of Psychopath, was believed to be a self-analysis, further showcasing his lack of remorse. On April 12, 2011, Twitchel was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole for 25 years. Beyond Altinger's murder, Twitchel was linked to an earlier attack on Gillis Tatro, a man who had also been lured to the same garage through Plenty of Fish. Tatro survived after a violent struggle with Twitchel, who had ambushed him while wearing a hockey mask and wielding a stun bat. He even went ahead and wrote a book about the terrifying ordeal he encountered. Though police initially pursued an attempted murder charge, it was later dropped as Twitchel had already received the maximum sentence for Altinger's murder. Twitchel's case became the subject of intense media scrutiny. His obsession with Dexter sparked debates about the influence of violent media, with even Michael C. Hall, the actor portraying Dexter Morgan, commenting on the case. Despite his incarceration, Twitchel managed to obtain a television in his cell, where he reportedly caught up on episodes of Dexter. Mark Twitchel's descent from aspiring filmmaker to convicted murderer remains one of Canada's most chilling true crime stories, a grim reminder of how fiction can bleed into reality with deadly consequences. Number 2 on our list was also inspired by the TV show Dexter. Stephen Miles, a teenager obsessed with the fictional serial killer Dexter from the American TV series. Elizabeth Thomas, a bright 17-year-old A-level student, was found brutally murdered in a flat in Oxted, Surrey. Her life was tragically cut short by her boyfriend, Stephen Miles. On January 24th, Stephen Miles lured Elizabeth to his family's flat on Amy Road. Once inside, he He stabbed her to death before using tools from his father's tree surgery business to dismember her body. He carefully wrapped her limbs in bin bags, attempting to hide the gruesome nature of his actions. An hour after the murder, his sister returned home, only to be confronted with a chilling confession. "Ed made me do something bad," Miles told her, referring to a voice in his head that he claimed commanded him to kill. The authorities were immediately alerted, and Miles was arrested at the scene. During the trial at Guilford Crown Court, jurors heard of Miles' deep fascination with the character Dexter Morgan, a forensic expert who leads a double life as a vigilante serial killer. Psychiatric experts assessed him and suggested that Ed was not a sign of schizophrenia, but rather an anxiety-driven manifestation, worsened by narcissistic personality traits and indications of being on the autism spectrum. Miles had a troubled history. His parents, Emma and David Miles, had sought medical help for him in April 2012 when he began self-harming. Despite receiving mental health support, he was eventually deemed stable and discharged in October 2013. However, his dark thoughts persisted. One of his former girlfriends later told police that Miles had once described how he wanted to kill someone and had even attempted to strangle her for a few seconds. With overwhelming evidence against him, Miles admitted to the murder and was sentenced to life in prison. Judge Christopher Critchlow condemned the crime as a case of the utmost gravity, stating that no sentence could ease the pain suffered by Elizabeth's family. He ruled that Miles must serve a minimum of 25 years before being considered for parole. Elizabeth Thomas was remembered as a kind, caring, loving, and gentle girl. She grew up in West Wickham, southeast London, and was pursuing her A-levels at Oxted School at the time of her death. Her tragic murder sent shockwaves through the community, leaving her family and friends to grieve the senseless loss of a young life full of potential. Next on the list is Jason Hart, inspired by the TV series Breaking Bad. On a quiet June morning in 2013, authorities in 9 Mile Falls, Washington, uncovered a gruesome crime that left the community shaken. Reagan Jolly, a 33-year-old woman, was found dead in the detached garage of the home she shared with her boyfriend, 28-year-old Jason Hart. The discovery marked the end of a brief but turbulent relationship, one marred by tension, conflict, and ultimately a brutal act of violence. Hart and Jolly had been dating for only a few weeks, and according to those who knew them, their relationship had been fraught with arguments. One of their housemates recalled an unusual incident during a fishing trip when Hart angrily berated Jolly for disrespecting fish. It was a small glimpse into the volatility that would later escalate into something far more sinister. In the early hours of June 4th, Dean Settle, another resident of the home, returned from a night out to find Hart acting strangely. Hart casually told him that Jolly had gone out of town to attend a barter fair with friends. Then, in a chilling warning, he added, "Don't go into the garage. You wouldn't like what's in there." Ignoring the cryptic remark, Settle entered the garage and made a horrifying discovery. Inside a tub filled with a corrosive substance that Hart had mistaken for acid, he saw the remains of a woman's body. Horrified, Settle fled the house with his wife and immediately contacted authorities from a nearby fire station. A tense standoff followed as a SWAT team descended upon the property. Several people were still inside, including Hart's father and Jolly's mother, and reports surfaced that weapons and drugs were present in the home. After hours of negotiation, Hart surrendered to police without resistance. Once in custody, Hart admitted to strangling Jolly to death, pleading guilty to second-degree murder. Investigators soon uncovered disturbing details about his actions. Among the items found in his residence was a DVD copy of the television series Breaking Bad, a show in which a character attempts to dispose of a body using acid. It appeared Hart had taken inspiration from fiction, though his method ultimately failed. As the case unfolded, Hart's background came under scrutiny. A military veteran, he claimed to be suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder and had a history of substance abuse, including heroin, prescription painkillers, and marijuana. Court-appointed psychologists evaluated him, diagnosing him with substance dependency and an unspecified personality disorder. Despite his erratic behavior, they ruled him competent to stand trial. Hart had no prior criminal record, though police had responded to several domestic violence incidents involving him. In October, prosecutors offered him a plea deal, 14 years in prison, with credit for the 15 months he had already served in Spokane County Jail. The deal also required him to cover Jolly's funeral costs and serve 3 years of probation upon release. Judge Marian Moreno, who presided over the case, did not rule out the possibility of ordering substance abuse treatment as part of his sentencing. No members of Jolly's family were present in the courtroom when Hart formally accepted the plea deal. The sentencing hearing was scheduled for late October, marking the final chapter in a tragic case of violence, addiction, and a life cut short too soon. Next on our list is Draper and Adamcik. On the evening of September 22, 2006, in the quiet town of Pocatello, Idaho, 16-year-old Cassie Jo Stoddard was house-sitting for her aunt and uncle, Allison and Frank Contreras. The couple had left for a trip, entrusting Cassie to take care of their home and pets. It was supposed to be an uneventful weekend, but unknown to Cassie, two of her classmates, Brian Lee Draper and Torey Michael Adamcik, had sinister plans for the night. Cassie, a junior at Pocatello High School, had invited her boyfriend, Matt Beckham, to keep her company. The two spent the evening together when, at around 6 p.m., Draper and Adamcik arrived at the house, claiming they wanted to hang out. Cassie, unaware of their true intentions, welcomed them in and even gave them a tour of the house, including the basement. The four teens then settled in the living room to watch Kill Bill, Volume 2, but after some time, Draper and Adamcik decided to leave, saying they wanted to watch a movie at the theater instead. What Cassie didn't know was that before leaving, Draper had quietly unlocked the basement door. Later that night, the two boys returned, parking their car down the street before donning dark clothing, gloves, and white masks. Slipping into the basement undetected, they cut the power to the house, hoping to scare Cassie into coming downstairs. When this failed, they turned the lights back on, trying to avoid suspicion. Cassie grew uneasy, especially when one of the family dogs kept barking at the basement stairs. Sensing her distress, Matt called his mother to ask if he could stay the night, but she refused. Instead, she offered to let Cassie come home with them, but Cassie declined, determined to fulfill her responsibility as a house sitter. At around 10:30 p.m., Matt left, leaving Cassie alone. Seizing the opportunity, Draper and Adamcik cut the power once again and waited. When Cassie still did not come downstairs, they decided to take action. Climbing the stairs, Draper slammed a closet door to startle Cassie, who was lying on the couch. Before she could react, the boys lunged at her, stabbing her approximately 30 times. 12 of the wounds were fatal. 2 days later, Cassie's relatives returned home to find her lifeless body. The brutal crime shocked the town, and the investigation quickly led to Draper and Adamcik. Both boys initially denied involvement, claiming they had been watching a movie downtown. However, their alibis fell apart when they could not recall any details of the film. Under pressure, Draper eventually confessed, but attempted to minimize his role, blaming Adamcik for instigating the attack. A crucial piece of evidence was discovered at Black Rock Canyon, where the two had attempted to burn their clothes, masks, and weapons. Among the items recovered was a partially burned VHS tape, which, when restored, revealed chilling footage of Draper and Adamcik discussing their plan to murder Cassie. They spoke excitedly about their aspirations to commit more killings, even comparing themselves to the Columbine shooters and fictional horror movie villains. At trial, the prosecution presented these recordings along with journal entries that further illustrated the boys' obsession with violence and notoriety. It was also revealed that the two teens were inspired by Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold, who committed the Columbine High School massacre, as well as the Scream horror film franchise. Draper and Adamcik were convicted of first-degree murder, Draper on April 17, 2007, and Adamcik on June 8, 2007. On August 31st, both were sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, along with an additional 30 years for conspiracy to commit murder. Cassie's family and the Pocatello community were left devastated. In her memory, her loved ones started a campaign called Pumpkins for Cassie, allowing people to donate to local charities while honoring her life. Over the years, Draper and Adamcik have repeatedly attempted to appeal their sentences, but all efforts have been denied. The court has upheld their convictions, ensuring that they remain behind bars for the rest of their lives. Cassie's tragic death remains a chilling reminder of the horrors that can emerge from a twisted obsession with violence and fame.